Hi guys, Aka here, back at you with another comparison video. This time we're looking at the latest siege general to be added to the game. Everyone give a warm welcome to Mr. Champlain. Yeah, okay. All right. I know his name is not Champagne, it's Champlain. Alrighty. So we have Mr. Champlain. Okay, we're gonna take a look and see what he can do, see how well he stacks up to the other siege generals that we have in the game, and yes, answer the question about whether he's the best siege general or not. So let's hop right in. Okay, so we have Champlain here, and taking a look at his skills initially, he looks pretty good. Okay, for his main skill, he gets 50% attack, 40% defense, and 50% HP. And the good thing about his skill is that he is when leading the army. Okay, take note of that. All right, now if we move to his specialties, okay, by the time we go through his specialties and we put all of them together, Champlain comes out with a total of 75% attack, 55% defense, and 45% HP. Okay, now we put his specialties aside and then we bring up the ascension. And for his ascension, everything put together, Champlain gets 70% attack, 40% defense, and 60% HP. Good stuff. Now, when we put all of those stats together, Champlain rolls out with a total of 195% attack, 135% defense, and 155% HP. Okay, that's very good. That's looking very good. Nice stuff. Righto. So let's see how Champlain stacks up against some of the other top competitors that we have in the siege department. So right here, you can see Champlain against some of the top generals that we have in the game. Now, the first thing that your eyes are probably going to go to is that attack stat. Okay, now as you can see, he's a little bit behind Stephen II and Christina, but he's 10% higher than Theobald. All right, looking pretty good. Now, when we look at the defense, okay, with the exception of Christina, yeah, he's doing okay. On the stats department, Champlain is doing very good on the HP. Out of all the generals that we're looking at, he has the highest HP. Okay, so based on that, you would expect that Champlain, yeah, is looking pretty good. From the stats that we're seeing, is he the best? Not quite there. But he does have the added advantage of being a when leading the army general. So you would think that versatility gives him a bit of an added advantage. Now, the closest general in that line that we can compare with Champlain is Stephen II. Stephen is also a when leading the army general. And as you can see, stats-wise, you could make an argument for Champlain being better because he has a much higher HP. Okay? However, the comparison is not that simple. Why? Because there are two factors, okay? We're going to talk about compatibility a bit later on, but when we're looking at these two generals, Stephen cannot take the siege attack book. Champlain can. So you would assume that that gives him the advantage. All right. However, as we see right here, Stephen has much better base stats than Champlain does. And because of that, when you level the generals up more, Stephen is going to cut into whatever lead that Champlain has and yeah, could very well overtake him when you're getting into the higher 40s and beyond. So that's it for the stats. However, looking at these generals again, Champlain runs into a bit of a roadblock. That's march size. Here are the march sizes for these generals. As you can see, Champlain gets a total of 12% march size. That's when you include what he gets from his specialties and from his covenant. But pretty decent, 12%. It's better than what Christina gets. However, he's falling behind Stephen and Theobald. Considerably so. Now, if you are one of those people that, Siege is your thing, and you like Siege, and you would give your right arm for Siege, then this is going to be a significant difference for you. And because of this, as we can see, Stephen has 6% more march size than Champlain does, while Theobald has almost double the march size. So because of that, even when you factor in the stats that we looked at, Champlain will probably fall behind these generals. However, you can make an argument that Theobald is an attacking general while Champlain is a when leading the army general. So maybe Champlain might be considered better. But for purely attacking, I think Theobald takes it. And even if you're looking overall, I think Stephen edges him out as well. So that's the quick wrap up when you're looking at the stats that these generals are bringing. Now let's shift gears and have a look at Champlain's covenant. Now this is Champlain's covenant right here. And you look at it, it's actually a pretty decent covenant. The majority of the relevant stats that he has are all 10%. So that's looking very good for him. He has 6% march size in his covenant, which we have already talked about earlier. And if you look at the skills that he has, the gold ones, the first one is march speed, which is, The second one is in rally siege HP, which is pretty good, okay? And remember that this is a universal stat. So even if you had one copy of Champlain and you did his covenant up until the fourth one, that's still a benefit for you, okay? Even if you're not using him. Now, here is a bit of an issue that he has with his covenant. These are the three generals that he needs for his covenant. And as you can see, Andre Messina and Suchet are two of the generals that are required. Now, I'm going to go on a limb here and say that for the majority of people, obviously excluding people that consider themselves at the top of the game, Andre Messina and Suchet are not particularly easy generals to get. Case in point, I don't have either of the two. And I'm willing to bet that there are a lot of people that don't have at least one of them. So in that case, for a lot of people, completing the covenant for Champlain, I wanted to be kind and say it will be difficult. No, it will be downright impossible. There is no way you can do decent on a general's covenant when you have only one of the three generals. If you had two, you could get along fairly decently, but just one, no chance. So, for people in a similar situation like me, Champlain's covenant is going to be out of it. But, like I said, for a lot of people that might be interested in him, they might have these three generals, and it's not a problem for them. If you fall into that category, great for you. Now, we want to take a second and talk about his compatibility. So, this is my Champlain right here. And I've already checked this so I can confirm for you guys that he can take all the necessary skill books that we have for Siege in the game. And if you even go and check march size, he's good with that. So, in terms of compatibility with skill books, this guy is okay. He's all good to go. Now, we want to talk about his compatibility with other generals, okay? So let's come out and come here and do the usual thing, okay? All right, now we have Champlain here, and the first general we want to check his compatibility with is Stephen II. Now, I checked this compatibility earlier, and you can see it's showing that they are not compatible. The reason it's showing that they are not compatible is because Champlain at this time had the siege attack book on him, and Stephen cannot take the siege attack book. But here's a neat trick that some of you might not know. If you switch the generals around, when the problem is with an attack book, you can see the compatibility is showing, but the attack book on Champlain is now grayed out. This is another way you can confirm if generals have compatibility, especially when it's one skill book that is causing the problem. Now, in the same line, Champlain is also compatible with Mu Kunying. All right, now to look at some other generals, Champlain is compatible with Zucker, he's compatible with Hunyadi, he's compatible with Churchill. So all you siege rally setters out there, yeah, this is a good one for you guys. He's compatible with Teach, compatible with Maurice, okay? Compatible with Christina, and with the help of a dear friend, I was able to confirm that he's compatible with Theobald. So, Champlain is actually a very decent general compatibility-wise, okay? If you know of any other prominent combinations that Champlain goes with or doesn't go with, please feel free to drop them down in the comments. Alrighty. Now, for the most part, we've talked about Champlain as the main general. Let's take a look at him as the assistant. So here is the list of siege generals that we have, and we can compare how they are doing, okay? Now, for those of you with a very keen eye, you'll notice that Champlain is doing very well as an assistant. Part of the reason why he's doing so well is because all his march size, the 12% march size that he gets, is fully available when he is the assistant, okay? In fact, Champlain is the only general in the game, to the best of my recollection, that fully matches Cleos in terms of march size for siege. So yeah, Champlain is looking very good as an assistant. Okay, now we have taken a look at all the stuff that Champlain has, and I think it's very safe to say that he is a very good siege general. Can be used in all situations, and he's pretty decent. Is he the best attacking siege general in the game? Probably not. But he's up there, okay? However, and this is an important point to note, even though he is not the best siege general in the game, in my opinion, he is the best siege assistant in the game right now. His main competition, in my opinion, was Stephen II, okay? Not Cleos, because he clearly outclasses Cleos in terms of the buffs when being used as an assistant. So Stephen II. He is slightly edging Stephen out on the stats. And remember, Champlain can take the attack book, Stephen can't. So that's a big benefit for him. In addition to that, Champlain would also be a very excellent assistant on your wall if siege is your thing. Now, for me, this is my current PvP wall setup, okay? Judge Dewey as Nain with Stephen II as the assistant. By my estimation, Champlain would be a better assistant than Stephen II. That's just objectively speaking. It is what it is. However, in my opinion, the difference that you get between Champlain and Stephen is not so great that for anyone that already has Stephen or some other really strong siege general as the assistant done up, I don't think there might be a need to switch. However, if you don't have, or you're using one of the older generals as your assistant, like Leo III, Champlain is a very great option for you to switch to at this point. So that's the overview of Champlain. If you're interested in him, go get him. If you haven't quite made up your mind yet and you want to take a look at some other generals, here is another siege general comparison video so you can check it out and see if that helps you broaden your horizons a bit. That's it for me, guys. Thank you very much. Aka signing out.